Hello, and thanks for tuning in to RadioFreeRhinecliff.org. And this show in particular, correct me if I'm Norm. I'm your host, Norman. Wait, what's that? Oh yeah! My special guest tonight is Mr. Steve Miller. Hi, Steve. What's going on? You're making some cocktails for us.
Making some cocktails, making a mezcal margarita.
A mezcal margarita? That sounds pretty danged delightful.
Very seasonal.
Is it? Why? Is it? I guess margarita is a summertime drink.
It is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, this looks really good. And you brought some special black salt for the rims. What kind of salt?
Hawaiian black sea salt.
Hawaiian black sea salt?
We're going to have to just pour it in the drink.
You're going to pour a drink?
No.
Oh, you're not going to pour a drink?
The sea salt.
You're going to pour the sea salt into the drink? None for me,
Would
please.
never do that.
I get the high blood pressure. I can't handle sea salt. Especially the Hawaiian kind. Forget about it.
You know what the hell with the sea salt.
And now you're shaking up some. But you're not the Steve Miller. This sounds good. You're not the Steve Miller of the song, are you?
No, I'm not.
No. Were you ever a Steve Miller fan?
I was. Because, I had to be.
You have to be. Or you could just hate him and, be like that way. Or tired of people making the joke that I just made.
I think in high school, you're kind of in that place where any form of this is you. You're Steve Miller. It's like, okay, that's kind of cool. I'll go with it.
Right. I didn't get that until much, much later when Cheers came out. People started saying, Norm.
Exactly.
I was like, oh, stop it. But I guess I didn't mind it. A little bit of attention usually is not too bad for people.
No.
All right, so now you're putting limes on top of these beautiful cocktails in a fabulous martini glass.
Did I win?
So far, we have to taste it. Gina's was, really so good.
Gina's was kind of, I heard, okay.
Yeah.
She's listening from Hong Kong, by the way.
Yeah, where'd you hear that? Can I take one of these?
Yeah, get it.
All right, good. I'm going to take this one to Jen. Oh, or that one to Jen. Oh, you're splitting one. Yeah. Okay. All right, Miller, thanks for being here. Let's have cheers and a yum.
Cheers. Ooh, that is.
Oh, that is delicious. Yeah. Well done.
Enjoy that.
Chink, chink.
Boom. We got a Matt and a Matty.
Yeah. All right, let me finish the intro.
Okay, go.
See if this gets me back on track. Thanks for tuning in to RadioFreeRhinecliff.org. This show in particular, correct me if I'm Norm. I'm your host, Norm. I'm thrilled to be here tonight with Mr. Stinky Miller, known to some. Most know you as Steve Miller.
Yeah.
When I met you, I was introduced to you by Maxine Patra. She said, and this is Stinky Miller.
Right.
Which was so fun. I didn't even think about it. I'm like, all right, I guess that's his name. Can you share how that name came into your life?
Yeah, it's completely uninteresting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
has
nothing to do with any olfactory issues.
I know that.
Nothing to do with physical.
I know the answer to this already.
Stuff.
Yeah.
It was there was this thing back in the day in the industry called the Creative Black Book, and it was basically ads, like a book of ads for people, like in this case, a still photographer. And his name was he went by Stinky Miller. So that was open on the desk one day, and Frank Todaro and Jane King and I were in the office together, and Frank's like, Stinky Miller, that's you. and
that was it.
It stuck.
It stuck.
That's it.
And so
Told you it's boring as hell.
Yeah, well, it's something.
It's something.
And so, when I met you, you went by that, and then you moved to the London office, and everybody there called you that.
Because you called me that.
No, Casey called you that.
Casey did too.
Don't put that on me.
That's right.
And we're talking about in advertising, advertising agencies in New York and London. And this has been your career, advertising, for as long as I've known you, 35, 40 years.
Yeah.
How did you get...
Yikes.
How long?
It's been 40 years.
How did you get into advertising?
Well, I went to Syracuse University, and there they had a great...
All right, let's back up. How did you get into Syracuse?
I went to Dutchess Community College because I didn't have an idea what the hell I was doing.
And back up. How did you get into Dutchess Community College?
Because I didn't have any idea what I was doing.
Okay.
I did not. I was not. And that was the era of parents kind of doing the whole, you're good for college. It wasn't the helicoptering where you have to do these, you have to write this essay. You have to apply to 6 colleges. You have to like do all this stuff.
Right.
So I didn't have, my shit together with that. So I went to Dutchess, and it was like, we called it Pendel U because it's on Pendel.
Pendel Avenue.
Yeah. It really was actually great. And there were a lot of kids that I knew from high school, of course. And
where was high school?
FDR, formerly known as Roosevelt High School.
Which is in Hyde Park.
Right down the hill there.
Which is where you grew up.
Which is where my wife Sarah grew up, and I was down the hill a little further in Poughkeepsie, the other side.
But you
of
were in the
tracks.
school district of...
Yeah.
Okay.
Just inside the
And did you
school
always go there, or did you go to a different school before you started there?
district. What?
Like a Catholic school before
Oh,
you
yeah.
went to
Oh,
Roosevelt?
sure. I did the Catholic school thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm sorry to
Now we're talking.
back you up.
Yeah.
But, somebody told me a story about how you got from the Catholic school to Roosevelt
Via Haviland.
via Haviland. That
Middle school, junior high
the
school.
teacher recognized your...
Oh, yeah. I had a
love
teacher.
this when I remind somebody about the points of their life.
Let me tell you about your life. Mrs. Tobias, who was
Uh-huh.
awesome. She was just like one of the lay people, do you call them? I don't know, when they're not in the sisterhood. The nunnery. They don't come from the nunnery. And Mrs. Tobias recognized that I might have some artistic ability. And she, in an amazing move, sort of told my parents, you should take him out of here because we don't have anything in the way of, it was the old no art stuff. So it was like you made the turkey with your hand. And that was it.
And
okay, put away your crayons.
How old were you when you caught the eye of Mrs. Tobias?
4th grade.
Okay.
So
And what kinds of things did you draw?
I don't know. That's a really good question. I don't know. I guess I just drew the things you draw, like a horse's head.
Right.
And, kids would be, I do remember kids being like, draw this, draw that. Can you draw this?
Because you had the talent.
Yeah. So maybe she realized that was going on and said, you probably should get this kid into public middle school.
Which had more resources for art
Right.
training and
Right.
stuff.
And they actually had art teachers.
And the parochial school did not.
No.
Right.
No.
No.
Most
no art.
definitely
That's-
not.
Really? Was it strict? Was it like that cliche Catholic school?
I think so.
Did you ever get your knuckles wrapped by a
There was
ruler?
no knuckle wrapping, but according to my brother, who is older than me and a real rascal, troublemaker, but good-natured troublemaker, he says that one of the teachers made him go out in the hall and punch the cinder block wall. Yeah.
That sounds really dangerous.
Yeah, it sounds really
You
deep.
break a couple of bones,
You
that
could do
sister's
damage.
getting in a lot of
you
trouble.
could do some serious damage.
Right.
Who knows
So-
if that's true? That's probably brother lore.
So you don't recall what you're drawn, but you recall that Mrs. Tobias recognized a special talent. And
Yeah.
It sounds like the other kids in the class did.
Oh, you know what? I know specifically what it was now. It just came to me.
Yay.
It was a Christmas card
Okay.
that I gave to my teachers. And it was a drawing that I drew of like carolers or something like that. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love that.
So
And so then you went to Roosevelt.
went to Roosevelt, first Haviland, and it was really a crazy clash of cultures. It was like, welcome to public school. And first of all, I was doomed from the beginning because my mom would lay out my outfits that I was wearing.
Nice.
And let me tell you, it had nothing to do with a pair of jeans or a t-shirt.
No.
Yeah, they were like slacks. So I really quickly learned
Lax.
to hack that system. And I put clothing in the backyard. And I just went behind, when I left, bye mom, going to school, I just changed into jeans and a t-shirt and off I went.
Because that's what all the other kids in the
That's what
public school
everybody wore.
were wearing.
That's right. Yeah. You might
Love
get
that.
a collar.
Did you
You might get
ever
a short sleeve.
Did you
shirt
ever
with a
forget to change coming back into the house?
You know what? I think that lasted like 2 times. And
Right.
then I was just like, yeah, this is what I should wear. And my mom was like, all right, fine.
I want you to get beaten up. Was it culturally different from the Catholic school?
Oh, yeah. And I realized that I was I think I was seen as like kind of a smart kid, but didn't have anything to do with my ability, my intellect, my grades. It was just because I came from a Catholic grade school. And I probably behaved a little bit less like a knucklehead, maybe, until I
Right.
realized that I needed to be a knucklehead to be popular. And that's what I did really quick.
I love that. Let's talk about that realization, because from knowing you for 35 years, I feel like that might be a very important turning point in your life.
It was.
When
for
you're
sure.
like, oh, I should be a knucklehead.
Yeah. And I pretty quickly realized, the kids who I needed to become friends with, and did that somehow.
The cut-ups.
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh. And so,
Jeff Morris and John Galt.
what's their names?
Jeff Morris and John Galt.
And John Galt.
And weirdly, John Galt is now the professor of sculpture at Skidmore College, where my daughter goes.
Amazing.
When we went for an interview went for that tour,
Orientation. Or,
we just went right in and saw John Galt. It was the first time I'd seen him since I don't know, junior or senior high school. It's funny, right?
and did he recognize you? Did you recognize him?
Yeah, I think but we probably, said we're going to be coming by. And then, so, we got in touch with him. And so he realized who we were. And,
Right.
Sarah, of course. So Sarah, my wife, Sarah, we went to FDR together. So she also knew John Galt. They lived in the same neighborhood. It was all very one big, happy, small town. What?
That's
I
nice.
don't know what that means.
That's nice. And so you're in high school with your knucklehead friends,
Yeah.
and you're daring to be dopey, as you've said so many times.
Yep.
And did you get in trouble for being a cut up? And
I think that
goofball
I think that there were, some progress reports. Did anybody get those?
Oh,
that
yeah.
they had to bring home and show their parents. That alluded to as much a disturbing influence in class. A couple of those
a disturbing force.
influence,
Oh,
disturbing
disruptive.
disruptive. Disruptive.
Probably
Disruptive.
more
Yeah,
than
may have
disturbing.
been disruptive
Yeah.
influence in class. Yeah.
Disturbing is more like pulling legs off spiders, that kind of thing.
Oh, that's
Disruptive
disturbing.
is- yeah.
Yeah. But I did that too,
Oh, yeah. Well,
but not in the classroom.
little kids.
I was on the playground.
So disruptive because you're cracking jokes
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah. Goofing around.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And then you left and you went to DCC.
I did, but wait, there's more.
Oh, good. I don't want to miss anything.
So it's funny that now that I'm thinking about it, there were these little formative moments. And when we were I think it was when I was in 9th grade. So I met Keith Armburst, also a local guy. So Keith Armburst, John Galt, Jeff Morris, all lived at Vito Petrosito. Some of our listeners might know Vito Petrosito. He's a performer. He's in a band, and he plays locally. Anyway, we kind of got a little gang together, and we at one point made a movie, and Keith Armburst had the equipment, and he said, "Look, we're going to make a movie," and John was way into it too, and of course I was as well.
you had like a
So-
Super 8
Yeah, it's a Super 8, and
with sound.
8, yeah, and no, not with sound. We had to make that up in post, of course. So we made this movie called The Worm, and it was in the woods, and the worm was an amazing special effect of a small person inside a sleeping bag, doing making worm-like movements through the leaves. And guess who that person was? It was her acting debut. You all know her.
I'm going to guess your future wife.
No, her sister, Amy Downs.
Oh, nice.
So Amy Downs and I worked on a film together when she was 7.
Love that.
And later, she became my sister-in-law.
Wow.
Yeah. Good story.
You're pretty good.
So,
Does anybody know where that short film is now?
oh, God, no. Man,
The
how
Worm.
great would that be?
Did it have a happy ending?
I don't think so.
No. For worms, it's hardly ever.
It's not. Worms it's a rough go. They're always, you come upon them after the sun comes out and they're all dried up. They have I think they have 11 minutes to get across the road, and none of them are going to make it.
Well, the squirrel needs 12
The
minutes.
squirrel,
so-
yeah. The crows are just waiting. They're just up there in the trees going, that one ain't going to make it.
Yeah, handicapping it all.
Let's go. Wait for it.
Taking bets. So you're getting in trouble, a disruptive force in classrooms, and then you left. Somehow you graduated
I did graduate.
on time.
with a solid B- average.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Glad to hear it. Slightly better than the average I
Bumped
had.
up by the art classes.
Yeah.
Those were my only A's.
Nice. They're very nice. And you went to DCC.
I did.
Spent a couple of years there studying art.
Actually, it was called commercial art in those days, which was fascinating because, well, fascinating to me anyway, because nobody knows what commercial art is. I mean, how could that be something that's defined specifically? So it was my first thought of the concept of an applied artist.
Right.
So it's just basically an artist for hire, you know. So we as a freshman, you learned illustration, you learned graphic design, you learned all those things that could employ you in some field.
And did professionals
artist.
come in and say, I'm an artist for hire and this is what I do? And
The
you get an idea of a...
I think some of the professors were working professionals, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Doing various things.
Yeah. And it actually was a great program, I have to say, because I
like it down
transferred-
there. I'm a booster. I really like DCC.
That's fantastic. And my portfolio, like, transitioned into Syracuse beautifully. Like I went right into the advertising design program there.
And why did you, I guess DCC's 2 years, so you finished.
Yeah.
And then you thought you wanted to get a 4-year degree.
Correct. Yeah.
And how did you choose Syracuse?
You know, I chose Syracuse because there was a decal on our art classroom door.
Okay, I love this
And
already.
it just said Syracuse University. And it was like, okay, I think that's a good place.
That'll
be
do.
good. That'll be good. And little did I know that it was like, I mean, it could not have been a more perfect choice for me. And that place is amazing. It's an incredible school, actually.
Right. So you went there and you got into what department?
It was advertising design. So not knowing what the hell that meant,
Right.
I was like, okay, this makes sense, I think. And my first class I think it's called AdCom, meaning advertising concepts. It started with print ads, and that's the very first form of applying cleverness, really, because you have to come up with a visual and you have to write a headline. And it really, without knowing what I was doing, I was learning the idea of what I think of as parallel thinking, or like higher concept stuff, where you're like, you show something, you say something else, and the viewer puts it together. And it's like, oh, that's pretty clever. And then the next thing was, and this was the thing.
And do you never show something and say something about the thing you're showing?
I mean,
like talk,
you can
see and say sort of thing?
And the see say thing is like that's kind of the junior work. You know what I mean? It's really kind of like the most obvious way at a visual communications solution.
Yeah.
But if you can do something that sort of either conjures atmosphere or actually makes you put it together, like you kind of have to you have to close the circle with the visual and the headline. And if you think about your favorite things that you've seen, it all involves some of that, where you're like, oh man, that's interesting.
And did you start thinking maybe that would be a good career?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And prior to that, you were maybe thinking that you'd be an illustrator, or is it?
Yeah, or a graphic designer. I didn't know.
Right. And so now you're introduced to the world of advertising.
Right. And it really took off when I had to write a 30-second commercial. So
At Syracuse.
Yeah.
In some other class, or was it the AdCom
I
class?
think it was the next AdCom.
Right.
And it was, it was fun. It was like, this is pretty cool because you really have to be creative.
Do you remember what it was for?
I do.
Oh, come on.
I do.
Love that.
It was absolutely terrible. It was for diapers. And it was, it started out very dramatic with cops, like sirens going, and the cops pull into a house, and, they put off the lights, and they come to the door, they bang on the door, and it's like they come in, and they're like, you're under arrest for like something like something like bad diapers on your kid or something like that. It's like, a terrible idea, but it wasn't showing a happy baby with a dry diaper.
Right.
So it was kind of fun.
And you didn't want to show a happy baby with a dry diaper.
Well, I don't know. I thought we should probably try something fun.
Something different.
Something that started with a little drama.
Yeah. Something that people might not expect.
Right. So then I did start getting like some more higher concepts going, and it was good. So I had a portfolio, everything that included lots of print ads.
Was it 2 years at Syracuse?
Yeah.
Okay, and in the end of it, you had a print portfolio, a bunch
Yes.
of print ads that you had done.
With including storyboards.
Okay.
So
TV spot storyboards.
Correct.
Okay,
and then
but not maybe for the diaper thing.
no, not that
didn't
one.
make it to the
one
portfolio.
That one didn't make it.
Right.
So the woman you mentioned earlier, interestingly enough, Maxine Petro,
Who was in charge of recruiting for the creative department at Dancer Fitzgerald Sample, DFS Advertising,
in the
Chrysler building there in New York City. Yeah.
which was so spectacular, and that's where I met you.
What a gorgeous building.
Right. Well,
Just amazing.
So she had this program that she just developed, that you mentioned, the creative training program, and she went to UT, University of Texas at Austin,
Right.
Syracuse. I think she went to your school. Oh, no, that's right, because you got there a different way. And I don't know, a couple other schools. Anyway, long story short, they liked the portfolio, and I was hired before I got out of school, which was pretty cool.
She came up to Syracuse.
Yeah.
And had a portfolio review or something.
Yeah.
And all the kids, there must have been 100 kids who had portfolios.
Yeah.
Did you drop them off, or did you show them to her? Or?
I think it was a drop-off, then an interview.
So if you made the first cut,
Yeah.
the drop off,
Yeah.
then you got to sort of go and talk with her.
Right. So it was American Idol, basically.
You must have been terrified.
It was, you know what? I was excited. It was really exciting. And some of the people were in that same group, because it was Frank Tadaro and Rick Lemoyne and all those guys.
A lot of talented people came out of Syracuse.
Yeah.
So did you know anything about DFS? The
No.
ad agency she
No,
worked
not
for?
really. I just, once you, we got the word, it was going through the advertising annuals, which for anybody, outside the business, you wouldn't know this, but it's it's a book. And it has the best ads from the previous year. And it's really, that's where we learned how to make ads from those books.
And had DFS do they have ads in that book? Do they have cool ads?
Yeah, they had Almond Joy. Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. And
Right.
And that guy I ended up working with, Cliff Freeman, who you also did a ditty with, or did sometime. And he did. Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. Like a lot of other things, RC Cola stuff. Remember
Right.
that name? And then Where's the Beef?
After you got there.
That was like everything blew up after that. So
Right.
then I worked in his creative department, which everybody was just like fighting to get into.
That's so funny.
And that was the first chapter. Basically, I started writing stuff, and
So did Maxine hire you? Did you do time with other creative directors? She put you right into Cliff's place.
we all had a chapter with each creative director. So
Okay.
there were 3 different creative departments.
And
within.
who were the 3 creative directors?
Oh God, it was Stanley Becker, Eric Silver. Eric. What was his name, Norm?
Eric.
Eric.
It'll come to me. Yeah.
And
Weber.
Eric Weber.
Uh-huh.
And Cliff Freeman. And Cliff Freeman is famous in the industry. He just did so much
And
big
you
stuff.
so you did work in each of those 3 groups.
Right.
And then somehow landed in Cliff's,
Right.
who was the famous and went on to become much more famous.
Yeah. Yeah.
And partly because of your work with them, right?
Yeah, and really good people that were at the agency at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so now you're working for Cliff Freeman,
Right.
at DFS.
Yeah.
Later on, he went off on his own, and you followed.
Yeah.
And what clients were you working on there?
Philips light bulbs.
Uh huh.
It's time to change your bulb.
Yeah.
Was the tagline. Won some stuff for that, and it was very, those days, for people that didn't experience it, advertising agencies were an incredible place, because
They were what?
they were an incredible place, to work for as a young person, because there was this residual like Mad Men glamour going on, and we were kind of the new era. It was the 60s were the golden era of advertising, where you've got, the Beetle, Volkswagen Beetle work, and all this incredible stuff that, what was the one, the Levy's bread?
Right. You don't have to be Jewish to love Levy's Jewish Rye.
Right. And then, our era was, I don't know, just a little bit different. It wasn't quite the glamour, but it was still there. And so it was a transition from old time golden era Madison Avenue
and
to the new thing.
Did you work with any of the old timers, the Mad Men sort of guys?
God, it was so funny. Yeah, I think Jacques Dufour.
Oh, nice name.
Was my favorite, and he was like the senior art director that is exactly who you would cast for the role, and he was styled exactly the way you would style him for the character, with his safari jacket and his like monocle. And he smoked constantly. In those days, you could smoke, in your office.
Yeah.
And his, it's kind of heartbreaking to think about it, but his whole life was the honeybee from the honey. What was it?
Honey Nut Cheerios.
Honey Nut Cheerios. And he's like, I'll never forget going in there, and he's taking the last drag of his smoke and stomping it out in his ashtray. It's like, kid, the bee's killing me.
And that was his claim to fame.
Oh, his bee.
That was his claim to fame.
Here's the other thing about that era. He drew the fucking thing. Like that was his job. He created the character, but do you think it was recognized, or he was like paid right for that? No. Like, he was an art director.
That's so funny. And were there other sort of old timers when you started then?
Stanley Becker. He was a character. He was like right out of he was the last gasp of the Mad Men era,
right.
Still living that way.
He was loud, boisterous, and baughty.
Classic.
And had people around him like that.
Yes.
Like our friend Steve Herman.
Yes.
Stan Becker loved Steve Herman. Who was similarly loud and bawdy.
Yeah, obnoxious.
Outspoken.
But funny. You can be funny and not obnoxious.
Stanley had a high tolerance for that as long as you delivered the creative ideas.
Correct.
And so now fast forward, the old ad guys were left behind when Cliff left DFS and opened his own place.
Yeah.
And you working at Phillips and what else?
Oh man. Little Caesars.
Oh.
Yeah.
And you won a shit ton of awards for Little Caesars creative,
won a
right?
bunch of awards for that. Having a meat lovers pizza delivered to a vegetarian club meeting. And it was, you know what? It sounds almost like the cops going in to change a diaper. It's kind of got a vibe.
It's hilarious. Now I remember that spot.
Yeah.
It's like shot sort of like camera head point of view.
Yeah, it was kind of
a delivery person
horror film
who's holding this pizza box in front. They're going down these dark hallways, and the music's playing and swelling, and turns around some corners and gets to a door.
Yeah.
And
Vegetarian Society on the door.
On the door, in the glass, it says Vegetarian Society.
Right, and it was delivered, I guess, incorrectly to the Vegetarian Society, and everybody screamed. And it was like,
yeah.
And looking back, it's kind of like, well, it's kind of awful in a way. It's
hilarious. I just loved it.
But it's like, that's sort of like, why you got to bust on the veg?
But
why you got to bust on the vegetarians?
And then the punchline.
Right.
Little Caesars Meat Lovers Pizza.
But it's like nowadays, like kale is the punching bag. For some reason, everybody's like, "Oh, kale." It's like, who cares? Goddamn green, for God's sake. It doesn't mean you're like a political, like you're on this side of the political spectrum or something. But that's the way it's portrayed.
Yeah,
which is it's easy stuff. You know what I mean? It's like first, like it's like lower the bar, that kind of stuff. When it's just sort of making fun of.
But you're starting to get a bunch of renown for your work there on Little Caesars and Phillips. And I know Phillips, you had this one Soup Couple.
Okay, Soup Couple was great.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was, I don't know. It's like there's an old couple, and the woman's like looking into her soup and stirring it, and the guy's stirring his soup. They have nothing left to say in their marriage. They're just like stirring their soup. And then she says something like, "Oh, the magic's gone every time the lights go," and then the light blows.
And the lights go out, you fall asleep.
And then he starts snoring. And it's like, that for some reason struck a chord. And,
his face falls in his soup, and he starts snoring with bubbles. It was hilarious. It was a great spot.
So I did that for like 10 years. And then my last stint as an agency creative was in New Zealand.
Oh, in New Zealand. Yeah. So you were what was called an art director or an associate creative director. Eventually, I'm guessing a creative director.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow New Zealand spirited you away from Cliff.
Yeah, I was at Chiat Day,
Okay.
and
So
that was my next stop. And it just got too intense. It was, I was promoted to creative director, and it was, all I was doing was going to meetings with the work and having it killed. And I had to come back. And okay, everybody, bad news, get back. We all have to get back to work, And it sucked. So I was just like, I don't want to do this. So I quit. And it was really only about a week after I was promoted. I was like, I don't want to do this. And so one of the guys I worked with down there had moved to Auckland, and he was working at Shy Day Mojo, which was like a subsidiary or satellite or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, he said, why don't you come down here? So I did it and figured I'll do that for, 6 months. And I just loved it. I just loved everything about it. It was. Did
you think about staying?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. I was really this close to staying. And
why didn't you?
I came home and married my wife, who was...
Oh, so you had started dating Sal.
Yeah, Sal.
Sarah
Sal sent me...
Miller.
Oh, sorry. Her nickname Sal. She sent me reels. She was working at an agency at the time as well. Ogilvy and Mather, famous place. And, we were in touch. I think we had gone on a couple dates before I moved to New Zealand.
And so your absence makes the heart grow fonder.
That's right.
And it did. Yeah. And you're like, I don't want to stay here. I want to go back and see about this woman.
I also, I'm a New Yorker. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm a downstate New Yorker, and I'm an upstate New Yorker. I love living here. So
on South Street, I'm on the best street in the village.
And as amazing as New Zealand was, and I can't tell you how incredible it was. Well, because you moved there too.
Yeah.
I had to come back. I just had to come home. So,
So you get back. You're unemployed.
Yeah.
And what'd you do next?
I worked as a freelancer.
Okay.
With a guy that I worked with before at Cliff Freeman and Partners. So we had this idea. It was like, okay, let's be a freelance team.
Who was
Rick
that?
Lemoyne. Sorry.
Oh, nice.
And Rick and I went into freelance with the idea that we would become directors as a collective.
So you thought, we'll go get this work as a creative team. You are an art director, him as the copywriter.
Yep.
And parlay that into a career as a directorial team, directing TV commercials.
Exactly.
Huh.
And then we did that. We got a job for ESPN.
Now, how did that happen?
I went to John Kamen. We both did, I think, and because we knew him from other.
Who runs this company called Radical Media?
Correct,
right.
And said, you know what? I know you hire. You develop directors who are former creative.
You cold called this guy, or maybe you knew him because you'd hired the.
I knew Frank Tadero and Brian Buckley, who were a collective there, and they said, "Yeah, come down, meet him, and kind of like, let's see." And he was like, yeah, absolutely. Come on in and we'll...
Love that.
Yeah. And I think he actually was the one who said, like, we have this project. Are you interested? I was like, we are absolutely interested. We will do this. And then we were really lucky. I mean, it really took off quick.
Amazing. So you worked as a directorial team for how many years?
10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you said the first spot was like ESPN or something?
Yeah. It was the NASCAR ride-along program.
Oh, nice.
And what we did was put people in the back seat, which doesn't exist in a NASCAR race car. And, it was just, that was it. It was like people in the back of a car going around. One of them was like Joan Embring, who was the Tonight Show person who used to bring on animals.
Uh-huh. Oh, right.
And one of the funniest memos I ever got in my life was about the animal that they were training. And it said, it was just like almost bullet points. It was like, here's where we are with the animal. The ringtail lemur with a prehensile tail is not performing. So it's like, I guess the ringtail tail was not, with a prehensile grip, was not getting it. And then it was like, there was another like exotic animal and another one, some sort of like African porcupine or something like this. These are all the ones that aren't working. And the last one was, and the monkey died. So it was Like, everything was this is, and I saved that memo because this is the shit that nobody knows happens behind the scenes. It's
Right.
you
I
tell
want
a
to
joke.
see that.
I mean, you write a joke, you stage a joke, but you have to have all the pieces, right? So
Right.
that's what happens in pre-production. It's like, okay, you have to go see here's another one. The little person that's inside the turkey suit that's being made for your department store after Christmas or after Thanksgiving
Right.
festival, whatever that was. So you show up in this place and there's a little person inside of a turkey costume and he's just looking up. And I'm like, I just remember looking at him going, just kind of shrugging, like, I guess I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And he's like, don't worry about it. I was born into show business, bud. And I was like, okay.
Love
God
that.
bless you. God
So
bless
what were some of the highlights of the Rick Lemoyne, Steve Miller team?
We were nominated for an Emmy, which was nice.
Sweet.
Yeah, that was good.
And what was that for?
It was for some Computer Associates commercial that, I don't even think that company's around.
There was one with the backup. Of course, you got a backup.
Yeah. And it was basically like an illustration of why you need a backup system.
Right.
And it was like somebody going into a meeting and they run into a file cabinet that was left open. And then their backup has to come into the meeting and wing it. And then they fall over something and hit their chin on the conference room table and they're knocked out. And it was just, you just cut to a guy who's just like, okay, deer in the headlights. What am I going to do? And that was the end of the commercial. So
That's nice.
Yeah.
And so who won the Emmy? Do you remember that year?
Oh, Nike, of course.
Nike.
Yeah. I mean, you shoot like athletic film like with a piano score, forget about it. You're done. You're cooked. As long as you get the swoosh on the end. We're done. Pack up your bags.
I'm going to boycott Nike ads now because of that. So eventually you went on your own. Mm-hmm. You and Rick decided to stop working together.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what was that like? I mean,
it was
dissolve a
weird.
partnership.
It was weird. It was like the first thing I did on my own is kind of like, the only thing I could equate it to was like walking onto stage that you're used to doing a duet and you're the only one. So it was weird to just be like the guy who had to have all the answers.
And Rick went out on his own.
Yeah.
Have you discussed this? Did he have a similar sort of experience?
Yeah, we talked a lot about it.
His first time out?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because now it's just you trusting your vision and your ideas.
Yeah, it's freaky.
And you were still doing this for Radical Media?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm still there.
And nice. And how did that work out for you?
Great.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Do tell.
Well, I mean, the thing that is, I guess, most well known is The Most Interesting Man in the World.
Never heard of it.
Dos Equis beer.
Yeah. But wait, you were working there solo for a bunch.
Oh yeah,
doing good stuff.
Yeah,
and
Geico. Oh God, now I'm forgetting.
But your renown was growing. Your fame was growing.
Yep.
I'm guessing you're getting paid more and more for doing this because that's how it works. And then in the midst of this pretty successful career came this Dos Equis thing.
Yeah, and it was pretty incredible because all I got, and I knew the creatives who wrote this because we had worked on something before, but they sent me just one page, 8x10, and this is insane because nobody does that. Like they had so much confidence in their idea that it would work beautifully with words on a page. And it just said, we meet the most interesting man in the world. And it was, I'm sure it was laced with sarcasm and more elegant than what I'm saying, but it basically was just like bullet points that said, we will see the most interesting man in the world bench press nurses at an Asian cocktail party.
So it wasn't drawn out. It wasn't a storyboard like you usually
just a line,
saw.
Just a line.
Really?
He's bench pressing nurses.
And did you ask them, like, really you had so much confidence that you didn't bother?
Yeah, and I knew the guy, so I was just like, I get this. I get them. I get where this is going. And the next one was like...
What do you mean they knew the guy?
Well, we worked with the creatives before.
Oh,
no, I knew them, the guys who wrote this. And the next thing was we see him arm wrestling Fidel Castro.
Okay.
We find him in with a marlin, holding up a marlin, laughing like Hemingway on an old boat.
So you get this one-page script. Now take us through the process step by step.
Okay, so
What happens next?
this is what happens when ad people create something. They send it to a production company with a director in mind. They go through reels and they pick.
And they had you in mind because
They
you'd worked
did.
together in the past.
Right. And they send scripts. And usually it's a whole thing. It's like a deck, you get all these visuals. And I think it's usually because they bury a minimum concept in a maximum package of visuals, right? There's nothing, their idea was so strong that it sung just from those bullet point things. Like I look around here, you guys are like laughing or smiling at just the description of him releasing a bear from a bear trap. That was the final scene. And so I was like, okay, I got it. I have to do this. So
What attracted you to it? Just the scenarios they put out?
yeah, and the deep sarcasm.
Okay.
Because the last line was, I don't always drink beer, but when I do, I drink Dos Equis.
Right.
And then the last line was stay thirsty, my friends. And those two lines had this kind of, I don't know, it was kind of like an inclusiveness. It basically didn't like kowtow to the audience. It basically said, I'm not like a huge beer drinker, but when I do, this is what I like.
Well, those lines, they're the fucking brief.
They include the audience.
From the agency and from the client,
Right.
And from the account team. The brief is we're going to get a more mature drinker, and
Right.
sometimes they drink. They don't always drink beer,
Yeah,
and so I mean, you sort of read the brief in those lines.
exactly. And you have to find what the tone is. As a director, I have to find the tone that they're going for, and I have to kind of hit those notes in my treatment.
Right.
And so I could see who this. I immediately started visualizing this guy, and it was a combination of Hemingway, Sean Connery, and
love that.
I forgot the other guy.
So good. Well, it'll come to you.
Yeah,
And
it'll come to you.
So the next step is you talk to the creative team on the phone, or
Yeah, we talked on the phone, and I said, you know what, I'm not going to get this job unless I take some chances. So I said, the only way I'm doing this thing is if our most interesting man in the world is an older guy,
right?
and that was like really huge contention, as you would imagine. This is
They wanted a younger guy.
no, the agency was right on board.
Oh,
The client, Heineken, was like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? Our target audience is 27-year-olds. You can't show an older guy. And so I had to go and sort of sell
really?
them on this idea. And I said,
nice.
you do not have stories until you're 60.
Right.
I'm 61 and I got like 3.
Yeah.
Of course, I wasn't 61 at the time, but I did say that this guy has to be built as this, again, deeply sarcastic icon that we present as absolute made-up reality. And he has to be somebody that every woman would not mind him buying a drink for, and every guy would buy him a drink to hear his stories. That's why he has to be at least 60 years old.
So you're sharing this idea with the agency and eventually selling it to the client.
Right.
And then what happens? And you start,
Well, they, it was a lot of cajoling. It was a lot of like pushing, but they finally, Heineken decided, yeah, I think I can see that this could work. So they said, we'll try it. We'll cast for it. So we cast in Buenos Aires, Mexico City, LA, and New York.
And did you want a Hispanic guy?
I wanted someone who looked like an expat, somebody who may have
Right.
like spent like 20 years in Cuba or something.
Right.
And we ended up with a Jew from the Bronx who weirdly just FaceTimed me yesterday.
And what's his name?
Jonathan Goldsmith.
And he did all of them for
10 years.
the length of the campaign that you worked on.
10 years. And the reason the whole campaign works is because the voiceover, talk about like not CSA, not basically telling people what you're seeing. It would be great visuals like him grabbing us as a younger, most interesting man in the world, grabbing a salmon and throwing it to the grizzly that's downstream.
Right.
And the grizzly, looks at him and nods. And you would hear he once slammed a revolving door.
Right.
Or no, it was he can slam a revolving door. That's what it was. And then the next line was he once parallel parked a train. It's like that's what made that shit great.
Right.
It was like it just like made you laugh just hearing that stuff.
I saw one before I came, and it said his fortune cookies simply read congratulations. And it's a picture of him bowling, bowling very well. Skinny dipping was his idea. And then the visual is him rehanging a piece of art at a modern art museum.
Yeah.
And then he can slam a revolving door one.
Yeah.
They were all in the same spot.
Yeah, that's right.
My favorite of all of them, because I watched them with interest.
This is what people tell. This is what I love.
Did them.
Yeah.
My favorite of all of them. People do that to you all the time.
Yeah.
My favorite was his mother has a tattoo that reads "Son."
Yeah.
So good.
That's a good one.
And was it the same creative team for all 10 years?
Well, here's the brilliant thing. These guys were such great writers that they just built like a box of lines, and they loaded it up like in the first year. Like once they saw that this thing was taking off as a bit of pop culture, they just wrote like the shit out of it. And it was great because for 10 years I had all that stuff to work with.
Oh.
And they had moved on.
Wow.
And, it was me and Jonathan, basically, the actor. And it was one of the things as a director and you're an actor, you'll appreciate this. He would do like 4 takes. He was brilliant, but only as Jonathan. He was not a good actor.
Right.
Sorry to say. But he would look at me after 3 or 4 takes with this expression like, what do you want? And I always had to say, I need you to stop acting. Just please stop acting. Just be the character. Because he was the character. And, he would reluctantly say, fine, I'll just be.
Right. Let's segue into a question from loyal listener Jonathan B., who says, I have a question for Steve. When digging into an actor's performance, what does he feel emotionally and physically to communicate in words to get the performance he wants?
Information. I load information, backstory. I tell them what the situation is. I arm them with stuff, information, so that they can just be. This is all for me. This is
like what kind of information?
Okay, you grew up a little misunderstood, and this is, so you give. I write a backstory. I will write a backstory. I will give an actor.
Do the actors not sort of come with their own? I mean, isn't that sort of actors' homework?
I think sometimes it is, but maybe not for a 30-second commercial where they need to quickly establish a character. So for me, it's always about stop performing. That's what I mean about acting. You're performing. You're actually, like overworking it is another way to say it.
What did I hear you say one time? Give me less.
Give me less.
Give me even less, or something.
Give me less. Now give me more. It's like oh, sorry. So no. That's it. Give me less. Now give me nothing.
Right.
That's what it is. And I think that was a quote from an old, somebody in Hollywood.
It's good though.
It's good because
That's
it basically
sort of
tells an actor, calm down, stop it.
Right.
Just fucking stop it. Just be who the character is. You know the character. So that's what I would say as an answer. Make sure that you give an actor the character they are. And that's what I mean by information. Give them a real sense of who they can be so they can just be.
Right. And have you had actors who just couldn't give you what you wanted?
Yeah, and you hate to have that moment. You hate to be there and see after 3 takes that they're just not being, and that's when you have to resort to I have tricks. I do everything I can not to do line reads, which is the worst.
Right, to give them the line. I want to hear it just like this.
Yeah, it's mimicking. It's basically, let's do playtime. I will say it this way, and you repeat it as close as you can with the same tone. So I will sometimes just quickly yell to the production, the art department, make me a cheese sandwich, and give the guy half a cheese sandwich. And I just eat the cheese sandwich. And I will say something, or I'll say something like, think about the laundry you have to do when you go home.
Think about what?
The laundry that you have to do when you go home tonight.
Right.
Anything to get them out of overworking a situation. So you got to have your brain. You're never only thinking about the one thing that you've got, right? You're always thinking about other stuff in life. You're just like, you're looking down the road. You're thinking about the thing that happened 10 minutes ago. You're anticipating the thing that's going to happen tonight. So your brain is always active with other stuff. So if you're not in a moment as an actor with other stuff going on in your head, it's going to be very stilted. It's going to not really feel real.
Right. And you've directed a lot of like professional actors and a lot of celebrities over the years.
Oh,
Who
well,
who have some of them been?
there's that guy, Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. I heard of that guy.
This, by the way, this is one of my stories. I don't know if you want to hear it.
Oh, good. Let's hear
One
it.
of my 3 stories. Oh, boy. Okay. So I was shooting a spot with Donald Trump as the, main. Well, he was the only guy in the spot.
Like 15, 20 years ago?
It was after, yes. Well, hang on. Yeah, I will say about 20 years ago. Let's just go there. And he agreed to be in this Domino's commercial where he was
A what commercial?
A Domino's pizza commercial.
Okay.
Where he is getting a pizza delivered to Trump Tower to his apartment, which was like the reason I took the job, because it's like, okay, that's funny.
Yeah.
And he was still, this is before The Apprentice. This is before he like became, anything other than a joke. He was a joke.
Yeah.
And with the whole Marlon Maples thing, it was
A B-list
New York Post.
celebrity.
Yeah, all the time. It's on the cover. So a situation happened. I'll make this as quick as I can. We had to get a light inside his apartment, and the agreement was that we would only be in the hallway shooting it. So he was in the doorway. We had a delivery guy and Donald Trump. So that was it. So we had to light him 3/4, back light. So may have had to do with his hairdo. I don't know. But we had to get in there with a light. And he's like, okay, that guy can come in and that's it, meaning me. So I had to do this whole thing where it's like, okay, talk to my producer. It was like, I'll go in, sit down there, look like I'm making decisions, and then get the gaffer in to move the light just inside the door. And of course, Trump had gone. But he came back. This is the weirdest moment of my life. I'm sitting on this little, small sofa in the foyer, looking at this incredibly strange apartment that had, faux French furniture, all gold gilt and white hand-loomed Tibetan carpet in the middle of this circular couch. It was a circular carpet. I just had this moment of what the hell is happening in my life? And at that moment, he comes in, he sits next to me. It's a small sofa. It's like a settee, I guess you call it. And he just sits there and he unrolls a magazine. And it's him on the cover with Melania. And she's holding a cigar, and she's got a micro skirt on. Her legs are up and kind of splayed, I guess you would call that. And he's got his arm around her with that look of oh yeah, baby. And he says, what do you think of this? And it's like, what do you say to that? I'm just like, well, she seems lovely. He rolls the magazine back up and he leaves. That was it. He came in, he showed me the magazine, and he left. And I got to cut to Stormy Daniels on 60 Minutes talking about what their moment was like. She sat on the bed. He came and sat next to her. He had a magazine. He unrolled the magazine.
Oh, my God.
And she said, somebody ought to spank you with that magazine. And I said to Sarah, I was like...
And you're like, shit, that's what I should have said.
I said, 2 things. Stormy's not lying.
Right.
And B, I got Stormied. I got Stormied in his space. So he leaves.
Did he leave $100 bill on the table next to the settee?
If only. But he leaves, and I'm just left with that. It's the weirdest shit lingering in the air, right? And I'm looking out at this carpet, and that has never been trod across, and this sofa that nobody's ever sat in. I just thought, I could blow up my life right now. My gut is I got to go over there and pull down my pants and just pee on the carpet. It's just I gotta just get this shit out of my head that just happened to me.
Yeah.
And it's this is going to be the end. I'm gonna end it this way. I think I thought it wasn't peeing; it was actually pooping on the carpet, nice. And just to be a little bit gross. So anyway, I saw the headline on the Post. It was Trump dumper, or me being led out of Trump Plaza.
Trump dumper. And the picture of you.
Anyway, that's one of my stories.
Nice.
All true.
And of all the celebrities you've worked with, Who was the most surprisingly nice?
George Hamilton was my favorite by
George
far.
Hamilton, the ever-tan.
Loved George Hamilton because George Hamilton understood that his currency in Hollywood was a C-list, brilliant guy, and he was the heir apparent for a minute there. It was between him and what's his name? Oh God,
Robert Wagner?
no, the good-looking guy that married Madonna for 5 minutes or something.
Married Madonna?
Yeah, what's his name? You guys know him? No, not Sean Penn, but oh God, I'll think of it later. But anyway, it was back in the day. He was it's a handsome guy in Hollywood in the '60s, and it's he was right there. Oh, Warren Beatty. Warren Beatty. So Warren Beatty and George Hamilton were going, head to head with auditions. So, but he came back in as the guy who was overly tan. Once he didn't quite get to Warren Beatty's level in Hollywood.
Oh, that's so funny.
And he was just the greatest, and I loved the guy so much. And he, at one point, he comes over to me and he says, "Hey, kid, listen to this." And at that time, we were using clamshell, phones.
Yeah.
And he's pushes a button, and I can hear what is clearly a recording, and it's a woman singing, "People who need people. Hey, Georgie, what are you doing, Georgie?" And I'm like, wait a minute, that's fucking Liza Minnelli.
And there goes that question. Do you do any impersonation?
Oh, well, that's a terrible thing you just heard. Please erase that.
So
and he's just looking. I'm listening to it, and Hamilton's just looking at me, just nodding. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me right now? You just played Liza Minnelli for me? Anyway, that was a beautiful moment.
And have you ever been starstruck? You're working with some celebrity, and you're just like, oh my God.
Newman, but I didn't work with him.
Who?
Paul Newman.
Oh yeah.
I was definitely starstruck by him. He came into my office. He was just in radically. I didn't do anything with him.
Okay.
He's amazing. He's the coolest guy that ever walked the planet.
Pretty good for a paper boy from Poughkeepsie. Meeting Paul Newman. And who else?
Who else? Well, I loved working with Mr. T and Lonnie Anderson. I got to make them a couple. It was like this hilarious thing that was a made up family,
right?
And it was like they were cooking pasta together. And
Love
I
that.
said, "Listen, Mr. T," and he went by Mr. T. It's like, "Come over here. Go into the kitchen."
Call him T.
No, just put your arms around Lonnie. She's stirring the sauce for this product. And he said, "Just give her a little kiss and just say, 'What are you cooking, babe?'" And it was like, holy shit! It was the most incredible moment. And then I was like, I just did that. I made Mr. T kiss Lonnie Anderson. It was like, I'm done.
Love that. That's so cool. And Michael Jordan, did you work with him?
Yeah. He had a whole phalanx of his people that I had to get through, and he's on the trailer in wardrobe, getting his makeup or whatever. And they were like warning me, like, you can't say this, you can't say this, you got to do this, you can't do that. And finally, I went in, and they're like, he's in a good mood, good luck.
Really?
And I get on the trailer, it's a Winnebago that he's on, and I'm like, I had a piece of paper, and I'm like, I'm here to see a Michael Jordan. Is there a Michael Jordan? And I look down the hall of the Winnebago, and I just see him lean his head out, and he's smiling, and it's just like, I rolled the dice, and he appreciated it. He was like, but this guy's not buying the bullshit.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it was funny.
I think the first guest ever to request a lightning round, which first came out with Martin, who's here also. Martin was the Virgin lightning round player, and here it is. You ready, Steve?
Yeah. Can I have Martin as my whisperer?
No.
Oh, fuck.
No. There's no lifeline. You can't call home or whatever. All right. What's your porn star name?
Oh God, Buffy Callahan.
Bucky what?
Buffy, with Buffy Callahan.
Buffy.
I'm
Callahan.
sorry. Kaywood. Oh my God, what was I saying?
Oh, my
Buffy
goodness.
Kaywood. My mom's last name is Callahan.
I'm giving
Street is Kaywood.
the grade on the pop quiz so far is F-.
Buffy Kaywood.
Whatever. Okay. Do you have a mean bone in your body? I do. I just graded you F-.
Yeah, it's the bottom half of my femur.
I'm sorry to hear that. Is Choco Taco the perfect food?
Yeah.
Were you a Boy Scout or a Girl Scout?
I was a Boy Scout.
Okay. Brownie Cub. I guess you were probably a Cub.
I made it to Weeblos.
Nice. What's the last thing you made?
Oh, I made this margarita mezcal cocktail.
Okay.
Mezcal cocktail.
Before this,
I made a rock painting from Iceland.
a rock painting.
Yeah, I painted a little rock.
Is it here in
No.
Rhinebeck?
Yeah, it's our house in Rhinebeck. Yep.
Nice. I look forward to seeing that someday. When's the last time you were, as they say, thrilled to pieces?
In Iceland.
Oh, really? So
Yeah,
you were
a
there
week
for
ago.
like 10 days or
Yeah.
12 days or
I
something?
think it was 9 days.
Yeah. It seems,
Phenomenal.
Seems amazing.
The most incredible
And your wife
place.
Sal put together a fabulous slideshow I had the honor to see,
She sure did.
which everybody should see. All right. Who's the greatest female rock and roll vocalist of all time?
Oh, man.
All right. Time's up.
Oh, wait,
In any field
no.
whatsoever.
on.
Yeah. Next question. In any field whatsoever, academics, arts, athletic, acting, governance, leadership, whatever, name someone who you think is the greatest of all time.
Pele.
Pele.
Yeah.
Love that. Okay, butterscotch sauce on butterscotch flavor burst ice cream. Too much?
Too much.
Too much?
Yeah.
Really?
Hot fudge.
I'm going to grade that one
Go
immediately
hot fudge.
too, which is like the other grade. What activity makes you lose track of time?
Painting.
What?
Painting.
Oh, good.
Chrissy Hind, by the way, is the greatest.
Thank you for
rock and
coming
roll
back to it.
vocalist.
You can circle around.
Yeah.
What's your favorite non-bacon smell? Yeah.
Cinnamon rolls.
Cinnamon.
Yeah.
Can you make any good sound effects?
Not like your water drop thing, but I can do an owl.
A what?
An owl.
Let's hear it. That is very good. What kind of owl is that?
That would be like a barred owl.
You sure this is
Yeah,
going to
and
affect your grade? We're
And
going
they
to check.
sound like they say, it sounds like they're saying, "Who cooks for you? Who cooks for you all?"
Who cooks for you? Love that.
Yeah.
Do you now, or have you ever had a safe word?
Cinnamon.
Cinnamon. It's a great safe word. Start using it. Have you ever slugged someone?
Nope.
Okay. What's your order at McDonald's?
McGriddle.
McGriddle.
Just give me as many McGriddles as you can make.
Okay. Do you have any collections?
You know, depends on what you call a collection. Is a collection 3 with intent?
Sure.
3 with intent.
I would say even one with intent.
Rocks from all over the place.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Not a collection of seeds of oregano from all over the world?
No.
Okay. What has to be broken before you can use it?
Ooh.
An egg. Okay. What month of the year has 28 days?
I don't know. September.
All of them.
All of them.
A man who was outside in the rain without an umbrella or hat didn't get a single hair on his head wet. Why?
He's bald, dude.
Nice.
I mean, like me.
Thank you very much. And that concludes the lightning round. I think it was an A minus. You stalled a little bit in one of them, and then the other
it's
one.
true.
Oh,
It's
sorry.
true. That's a great lightning round.
Yeah. Did you like that? Oh, good. Now back to the regularly scheduled interview.
Whoa.
Were you? I know you're a huge Syracuse sports fan,
Yeah.
especially basketball.
Yep.
Were you? Were you a fan of sports when you were in high school?
Yeah, I mean,
Did you play sports?
I played soccer. I was the it was the typical, family football thing. So I was a Giants fan because my dad was a Giants fan.
Right.
I liked the Mets, which is atypical. I don't know
Because
if you know the tribal thing, the New York
family
sports.
was Yankees.
Well, no, it's like you normally, if you like the Giants, you like the Yankees. That's the way it goes.
Because
But
Jets and Mets rhyme.
I think so, but it's definitely they're the same type of person. That's a tribal thing too. The Jets fans are usually Mets fans,
Interesting.
and I'm from a split family. Some could call it a broken family.
It must be
but
tough.
we're half Giants fans, half Jets fans. But I always root for both of them. Yeah,
And
Why
then
not?
you went to Syracuse, and
I did.
I mean, because I think of you as sort of what they say, a rabid fan.
I'm a rabid SU fan now.
Right. And so did your fandom really kick into high gear at college?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And who's better, Syracuse or Duke?
Fuck you.
Now,
Come
this
on.
question comes from loyal listener Claire M.
It's Syracuse, of course.
Really?
There's no doubt. I mean, if you have to be a Dookie, I'm sorry.
Who's better,
I'm sorry.
Syracuse or Georgetown?
Oh, God, SU, of course.
Syracuse.
Yeah.
What about UK?
Well, we beat them in the national championship in 2003, so I guess I'd have to say Syracuse.
Syracuse or Gonzaga State?
Oh, Gonzaga.
I just like
please.
saying
Give me a
that.
break, Johnny come lately.
What even is Gonzaga State? How come they're always there in the Final Four?
They're newbies.
They're newbies?
Yeah.
Are they
they're
really?
They've only been good the last 10 years, so
Uh-huh.
yeah.
And where is Gonzaga?
L.A.
Minnesota.
Well, is it in Minnesota?
I don't know.
No, it's in California somewhere. I think
it?
it's
All right,
pretty
good.
sure.
Another question from loyal listener Claire M.
Hi, Claire.
She's got a bunch of them. Have you ever had an ESP type experience, like some kind of coincidence that's too uncanny to be a coincidence, unexplainable in a rational sense? A funny question to write in.
Huh.
Yeah.
Uncanny
You can pass and
coincidence.
come back to it,
Oh, yeah.
unless you're having a vision right now.
No, I don't have. I can't think of what
All
that
right.
would
She
be.
also asks to describe a time you laughed so hard you lost control. Right now. It's happening now.
I think it happened on your veranda when we were talking about something, a topic that shall go on.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Just ridiculous. All right, last question from Claire. Name your favorite college basketball coach and tell us everything you know about him.
Of course, it's Jim Boeheim.
Who?
Jim Boeheim of
the hell is
Syracuse University, Lord.
Oh, we should have guessed.
Yeah. Although he was making me crazy toward the end, so I'm fine with him moving
Towards
on.
the end? Why? Where is he now?
Oh, he's stubborn. He's just a stubborn son of a gun.
He's what?
He's a stubborn son of a gun. He
Is
never
he,
practiced his bench, and we were always like, we would flame out.
is he still the coach of Syracuse?
No, he is no longer. Next season will be the debut of young Adrian Autry, who played at SU, coached at SU, and he basically he's doing exactly what Boeheim did.
Doing exactly what?
Boeheim spent his entire career. He's only been employed by Syracuse University, Jim Boeheim. He was a student there. He played on the team, and then he became a golf coach, and then he became the basketball coach for like 47 years.
This new guy, same thing?
Well, yeah. I think he went right into it right after school.
Right into it what?
Being on the Syracuse basketball coaching staff.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he's from Syracuse? Is that what you said?
No, he played there.
Oh.
Yeah,
Played for Syracuse
Yeah,
and goes straight into the coaching thing.
correct.
I'm sorry. I was not hearing you clearly.
So sorry.
All right, good. What else, Miller? Travel. Let's talk about, you mentioned Iceland.
Yeah. Here's the weird deal. So the last commercial that I shot was in Mexico City,
Okay.
which was spectacular. I've never been to Mexico City before. It's amazing, except for the water thing.
Did you get sick?
I did.
Montezuma's revenge, as they
did.
call it.
Yeah, the water wants to kill you. That's Mexico City. And so I went so I was there shooting for 2 weeks, and then weirdly went to West Virginia to Harper's Ferry because sadly one of my college housemates passed away. So we all got together there. It was like a little Big Chill reunion. And then a day later flew to Iceland. So I may be the only person alive that went from Mexico City to West Virginia to Iceland within a 3-day span,
I'll bet.
I would say. And all I could think of was the water situation because
In Iceland.
yeah, well, and in Mexico City. So you go from a place where you really shouldn't even touch the water
Right.
to a place where you might question West Virginia. It's fine. You can drink out of the tap, I think, to Iceland where it's just like you should only drink the water. That's
Right.
like there, wherever you see it.
Because it's like glacial runoff.
It's glacial runoff. I was snorkeling it's at the tectonic plates. It's like between the shift in tectonic plates between North America and Europe.
Uh-huh.
And there is a glacial river there. So I did some snorkeling in the glacial river in a dry suit. And it could kill you. You can't go in if you're not in a dry suit because it's so cold.
Oh.
But the great thing was you could, if you got water in your snorkel, which, you probably remember from diving, you got to blow it out. But in that water, you just drink it. So
No.
yeah, your snorkel fills with water. You just drink it. And at the end of the trip, I was just like, this is the most amazing. It's just to take off the mask and the snorkel and all this stuff and just go underwater and drink that water. It was incredible.
Is there good scuba diving there too?
Yeah, there at that place there's good diving, but that's more intense because you're in a dry suit and you got to do the whole thing. With the weights and all that.
Right. Interesting. And so Mexico, Iceland,
West Virginia in between.
West Virginia, the good old USA.
Yeah.
Have you ever traveled to any other places?
Oh yeah, lots. Yeah.
Yeah.
You and I were in Egypt together.
That sounds interesting.
That was really good.
Yeah.
Europe and all that stuff. And I've never been to Asia. That's
Oh,
one thing
no?
I gotta. That's one thing I gotta
No
check off.
Vietnam, Cambodia,
No.
Thailand,
Gotta get over there.
China.
Yeah.
What about this subcontinent, like India, Pakistan, Bangladesh?
No, I've been to. Let's see. The furthest east was Bucharesti,
Right.
in. Where's that?
But you've been all over. You mentioned New Zealand, South
Yeah.
Africa,
Yeah, that's-
Spain, Egypt, France, Scotland, Ireland, the Netherlands. Most of these we went to together.
Yeah.
France. Have you ever been to Gibraltar?
Yeah. Norm and I-
How was that?
Well, it was good. It was pretty fun. When Norm and I were living in London, for our listeners, we would go to these bucket shops, right? Isn't that what they were called? Where it's just like a
Travel agent,
when they
cheap
had
travel agent.
travel agencies back in the day, and you would just walk in and say, "What do you got for this weekend?" And it was just spectacular. $67 round trip to Egypt, for God's sake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, how'd you get to Gibraltar?
I forget. How did we get to Gibraltar?
How do we
hitchhike?
We were flying to Morocco,
Oh, right.
and the plane landed in Gibraltar. You were like, "I'm getting out.
Oh, I did. I
Going to
did do
touch
that.
the ground in Gibraltar." I was like, "Whatever. I guess smoke a cigarette when I shouldn't." And you went out and touched the ground in Gibraltar.
Oh, yeah.
This is one of the things. Let me just say this, because I traveled with you to 20 different countries or whatever.
Yeah.
So many wonderful adventures. And here's the story I'll tell. We went to Greece. We rented mopeds. We drove around the island of Paros, I think. And we drove out to this point, and there's this, sun-kissed, beautiful, white old chapel. And there's a cliff over the Aegean there. And, and I'm like, "Oh, isn't this pretty?" I'm taking pictures. You start taking your clothes off, except for your underwear. And
Thank you
and
for
you're like,
clarifying.
"I'm diving in." And like, you dove in. I'm like, "What? No, you can't." And you dove in, and I'm like, "All right, now I got to dive in." And I did. And I guess I just want to thank you for dragging me into so many wonderful adventures over the years. And have you always had sort of an adventurous spirit?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's stopping you, so do it. Right?
Ideally, no one's stopping you, and it's not going to hurt anybody.
I've talked to Tess. Tess is my daughter, who, I have this term called "in a world without consequence," and it's usually about something you would say, or like an honest response to something, or something physically that you would do, and you could turn back time and you can go back and like undo it. In a world without consequence, and it could be kind of a great way to live your life. Just sort of say, what would happen if there were no consequence or no accountability for something that may or may not be a good thing to do?
Well, when has this attitude, or this sense of adventure, let's call it, gotten you into trouble vis-a-vis like consequences?
Oh God! We at Syracuse, we skirted a what did they call it? There's like a. It's almost like a tribunal that you have to go before the disciplinary kind of court or whatever. We got caught. We were the place that where I was living was on just off a golf course, the Drumlins Golf Course. And one night we were drinking. We had been slightly overserved, and it was pouring rain. And I think it was my idea. Who knows? But the competition was who could collect the most pin flags. It was pouring rain. And
most what? Oh, pin
pin
flags. on the
So
golf course.
I have 3 of them hanging in our barn.
The horse gnaw.
The horse gnaw, our bar in the barn. And I think I won. I think I got the most flags. But then
So when the cops
caught.
came,
Yeah.
you had the most loot.
Yeah.
And you went up in front of some disciplinary. Did
No,
your parents
well-
get wind of it?
Actually, that was for taking the submarine sandwiches or grinders or whatever you want to call.
It depends where you are in New Jersey.
Yeah, it's true. From the back of the delivery car, Zorba's Pizzas, when we were going to a party up at SU.
You stole a bunch of the subs.
I took 2. I just took 2.
Did you get caught doing that?
Yeah, because
This is
believe
not
it or not,
confession.
the cops came and everybody it was hilarious. Everybody scatters.
Sure.
But I'm no hero, but this is true. What happened? The cop grabbed one of the girls that I was with, and she was terribly upset. I would have gotten away with it, but I kind of came back and said it was me. And
You sounded a lot like Trump when you said I would have gotten away with it. Yeah.
But it was amazing because I remember she was really upset, and you know, I said, "Don't worry about it. It's fine. I'm just going to give him back, and it'll be fine." And that's when the cops started reading me my Miranda rights.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And did you remain silent?
I did, and I was just like, you know, I had that weird like expression I just gave you, which is like wide-eyed and kind of half smiling and going, "This can't be happening." And next thing I know, I'm appearing before a judge, and
had your did your parents get wind of this?
they did eventually.
Uh-huh.
But I just called my brother-in-law, who's a lawyer. And he's just said, "Oh God, just do whatever they tell you to do." And I remember being printed, you know, like the thumbprints.
Oh, right.
And I was like, in that typical fashion, like annoying, like young entitled adult at a school. I was like, "Oh, this will be an experience, you know, just this will be cool. I'll
Right.
like see what it's like to be arrested." And so I asked the cop who's printing me, I was like, "Why do you do 3 copies?" And he just looked at me like, "Oh God, shut up, dude." And he said, "1 for the city, 1 for the state, 1 for the FBI."
So now your prints are on file with the FBI.
Yeah.
So you can
Mugshot.
no longer hijack an airplane.
Well, it gets expunged, I guess.
Oh, it does?
Or just is removed from your record after like 3 or 4 years, I
Really?
think, apparently. Because it's petty
Interesting.
larceny or something like that.
So
So I have to appear before a judge. And the judge equally was like, he's just like backhanding me. He's like, because I brought a whole thing to say, you know what I mean? I'm like,
did you bring your portfolio? Look, I'm a great draftsman. I drew this Christmas card.
God,
Parochial school.
yeah, that's what I did. No, I was just like, you know, letter of apology. He stopped me like after the first sentence, and he said, "I'm entering you a plea of not guilty. You will be doing 16 hours community service, and we'll come up to the court." They had like a couple things that you could choose from to do for community service, and so I picked the selling concessions at Salt Lake. What was it? No, not Salt Lake. Sorry, Salt City Theater, which was the local theater, like on campus or just off campus at Syracuse. And I'll never forget, just like my entire like time in, you know, incarceration, if you will, was like I sold popcorn before one showing of Jesus Christ Superstar, and then I went in and watched, and that was it.
That was it.
That was it, because
Wow.
I came back and they're like, "Don't worry about it."
Well, I think
You're good.
I think
You're good.
You're the first ex-con we ever had on the show. Or listen, we only have a few more minutes, but I want to ask about your daughter, Tess,
Oh yeah,
who you mentioned.
yeah,
And she was on this show
she sure was.
a number of months ago.
Much better than me, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. A lot more fun.
She's a good get,
Well, she's not an ex-con anyway, so she's
true.
got that going
as far
for
as
her,
we know.
which is nice. So she's at, where'd you say she's in school?
She's at Skidmore.
Skidmore. Is she studying art? Is she following
Yeah,
dad
she is.
and mom's footsteps?
Yeah, absolutely. She's really good. I gotta say, she's better than I was at that age, and and you know, right there with higher concepts, and
Right.
yeah, she's loving it, and she's minoring in art history, which would send most parents running for the hills, but I just love it. I love
Right.
that she's really super interested in that, and
Right. And her mom's very artsy as well, right?
super crafty. But
Crafty.
she right now is shaking her head, going, "Oh, Norm, I'm not crafty." But she, you know, she is.
Well, I mean, craft is a kind of art.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't think it needs to be sort of like in a separate category.
No, most
Which
charming kind.
seems often, you know, like illustration. It's like, oh, that's less than fine art.
Right.
I don't think so.
No, it's great.
Yeah. And what does she do?
By the way, she's the one that got me painting the rocks.
She's the one who got you painting rocks.
Yeah, that's our classic go-to.
Uh-huh.
Like whatever, because growing up, Tess was always like, it was a group of kids, and Sal would break out the acrylic paints. Like, okay, rock painting time, and yeah,
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. All right, we're going to wrap it up by reading some shit to embarrass you.
oh no,
My guest tonight has been Steve Stinky Miller, who is a phenomenal artist, brilliant draftsman, and just was won every award in the advertising business you could possibly win.
Oh,
from
Norm.
the Con Line to the Art Directors Club and a bunch of awards I never even heard of, but all of them.
It's because I made him up.
Yeah, maybe so. And if you want to see his TV commercials, you can go to radicalmedia.com and look for Steve Miller. And they've got like 10 spots there. They've got spots for Allstate. Oh, you're doing Mayhem.
Yeah.
Which is so good.
He's something. He's a rascal, that one.
And you've done, are you currently doing the other insurance company too, Geico?
Yeah.
So they don't care, the insurance company? One of them I saw, and people go there, radicalmedia.com, look up Steve Miller, is the Snickers almonds. I'd never seen
fun.
that.
Yeah, that was fun.
It's really good. Vision Works Bed. This was like a Japanese subtitled sort of thing. So good.
Hong Kong horror flick.
There's a line in there.
Yeah.
It blurs the line between tentacles and tongue. I'm like, what the hell is that? It was, but you got to go there. T-Mobile with Sarah Silverman.
Yep.
Which was in this other actress. Comedian.
It's Chelsea Handler.
And Ragu.
I feel like it's the lightning round.
Chelsea Handler. And Ragu.
Oh, that was good.
Which was so good. And the tagline I loved was, "A long day of childhood calls for America's favorite pasta sauce." And all of these, come to you as an idea, and then you make them sing. And it's
Hopefully.
just a beautiful voice you have in all your media.
Oh, man.
And thank you so much for gracing this media with that voice and being here on RadioFreeRhinecliff.org.
This is the best. You guys have built something amazing here. And thank you, Jen. Thank you, Patricia, Clifford, Norm, Matt.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Thanks for coming. Everybody have a happy whatever day it is you're listening to this.
See ya.
Bye.